Everybody, it's Misty. I'm here with my Sunshine Shop and I'm doing a tutorial today on this great little rose that I figured out how to make one day. It's a great little 3D rose that I use probably on too many projects, but once I figured out how to make it and they're just so adorable, I couldn't stop using them. So I wanted to share with you guys how to make them. I make mine using some petals from a store that I found online. It's called I Am Roses, and you can order rose buds or pretty much, I mean, they have every kind of flower I can think of on there, but they also have single petals like these. And I ordered a few of these and they were perfect. I'm able to make 3D roses. I can use them to do just single, you know, little flowers like that if I want to have something flat. But what I'm going to show you today is how to do the 3D roses. I'm going to show you a project that I'm working on, or actually I've already finished, but I want to show you the roses that I put on there. So the project's kind of big, so don't get too overwhelmed, but this is a canvas that I've done for my mother-in-law. And these are actually the roses that we're going to make. These were made using these little single petals that I've stacked together and glued, and you've got a 3D flower that looks something like that. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's get started. Put that over to the side. So this is what I've started with. These are Hydrangea Petals from I Am Roses, and it's iamroses.com. Great website. They have all kinds of flowers, very inexpensive. The shipping costs are really, really low. The only thing is they do come from Thailand, so it does take a little bit of time to get there. But once you get them, they're worth the wait. It's beautiful, and the shipping is unbelievably cheap. It's ridiculous. So I would recommend checking them out. But anyhow, so this is our little guy that we're going to make here. So first I've started off with 5 petals, and I just take my Tim Holtz ink and I distress the edges. Now you can ink all of them if you want, the whole flower, or you can ink, you don't have to ink it at all. It just depends on what you're looking for. So being that it's Valentine's soon, in about 2 weeks, I figured I would do some red ones, because I'm sure I could use it on a project somewhere along the line. But you can use any color, red, blue, purple, green, whatever color you want. And I'm only doing the tip of my roses because I want that white to kind of show through. But if you want to do your whole flower, you can ink the whole thing, or you don't even have to ink it at all. Or you can put it together and then ink it after you're done, just depending on what you want to do. So I'm starting out with my 5. We're going to make the center one first. So what I'm going to do, this is the only one you'll have to cut. They're all kind of cut on each petal, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one petal and I'm actually going to keep the big one for the end. So I'm going to cut right here, right to the center, just so that that petal comes apart. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this one right here. I've got my trusty little glue gun. And I'm going to start with the petal and I'm going to roll it in. And I'm going to glue on every petal up towards the top where your ink starts. And the reason I'm telling you that is because when we get done rolling this flower, we're actually going to cut the very bottom tip off. And if you glue just down here at the bottom and then you cut it, your whole flower is going to come apart. I learned that the hard way. So we've got that. I'm going to glue the next petal and just attach it, and then we're just going to keep rolling that around. So you'll just keep rolling it. And I'm rolling away from me. It just depends on what you're more comfortable with. If you want to roll towards you, it's up to you. And I just use a little bit of glue. And you're just going to go to your next one. And you're just going to keep going around until you're all the way done with your petals. And just make sure, keep in mind that you keep that glue up towards the top of your petal so that you don't cut it off in the end. Take these little groove strings away. Okay, so Now this is the very center of your petal, or of your rose, excuse me. And they all look a little different just depending on how you fold them and where you glue them. This one looks kind of interesting. I've got all the seams going together, so you can see that, I don't know, it just looks a little different than the other one, but just depending on where you glue it and how you roll it. And then this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut off the very end. Now, I've done this flower so many times, I kind of know how much I want to cut off. But if you want to wait till you start making the rest of your flower to cut anything, you can. I just cut about a fourth of an inch, or yeah, about a fourth off. Just because what I want is I want this to be flat, so that when I do put it in the middle of my flower, it's going to sit nice and flat without the point, and it's going to be, it won't sit so high up. If I left that piece on, this would sit so high up from the rest of the flower that it would look very odd. So I'm just going to set that off to the side, and we're going to go with your next one. Now on the next flower, this is going to be your next layer. What we're going to do is we're going to overlap these petals. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue here, and I'm going to overlap it quite a bit so that this petal goes to the middle of your other petal. And you'll see. I'll show you. So I've overlapped it to where this little side of your petal comes already pretty much to the middle of your petal that you're gluing it to. And the reason I'm doing that is because this is going to be the layer that goes right outside the middle of your rose bed. So you want it to be pretty tight. So you're just going to go all the way around. You're going to glue all 4 petals together. And your last one is kind of going to, just depending on how closely you glue them together, it's going to be a little tight, but just be careful not to burn yourself. So you're just going to roll that one over. Sorry, I hope you guys can see that. Okay, so that's your second layer, and this is why, excuse me, this is why I cut it, so that it sits, you know, it's not so raised up. If you hadn't cut that off, it would be sitting probably about there. So we cut that off so it'll fit, so we know that's going to fit. Now we're going to do our next layer, and that's actually going to go outside the one we just did. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to overlap the petals, but this time instead of going all the way to the middle of your petal here, you're just going to go over about 1/8 of an inch and glue it together, so it makes a cone but not as small as the one we just made. So it's the same thing. You're going to glue and just overlap your petals, and that's about as far as you want to go. So we'll keep going all the way around. Till we get to the very end. So we've got another cone. This one's a little easier to glue because you're not gluing them so close together. And I just want to make sure that it's going to fit, and it does. So I'm going to go ahead and start assembling the flower. You're going to take your small little cup, so you've got your small one, and I'm going to put a dollop of glue in there. Just enough to kind of fill the bottom, and I'm going to put the center in, and I just put my thumb down at the bottom, and I put my finger at the top, and just make sure that I push it down so it's nice and straight, and I just give it a few seconds to dry. You need to make sure that you let it dry, because the more you play with it, if you keep pushing it around, your glue will give and your center will fall out. I learned that the hard way too. Everything's trial and error with me, so the best advice I could give you is just to play with it. If it doesn't come out the way you were hoping it did the first time, try it again. Usually about the second or third time, it's exactly what you wanted it to be. Alright, so now we're going to take, this is the one that we put the middle in. We're going to put glue on here and just kind of do it around the outside. And we're going to stick it in here. Now, when you do this one, what I want to do is I want to make sure that in between each of these little petals, you can see this petal. So hopefully you can see what I'm saying here. I don't want the petals to be one right after the other because it'll look weird. So what I do is when I set this in here, I make sure that the round of this petal is in between two petals. Because if we had it where it was just right here overlapping, you're not going to be able to see the layers, and then the dimension of the flower is going to be kind of off. So you just want to make sure that you've got it set right in there. Make sure everything's kind of sticking. Alright, so we've got 2 more petals left. These you are not going to do any overlapping or any gluing. You're going to go ahead and glue them directly onto here. So what I'll do is I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to set glue here. And before I glue it on, I want to show you what I'm going to do. This is going to go right in the middle of the flower, and I'm just going to cup it around. And it's just going to glue. Because it's got these little slits in here, it's going to be able to kind of overlap on itself. And I'm going to pinch it around to make sure that it closes around the flower. And I'll show you once we get it on there. So you're going to put your glue, just set this right in the middle, and then I just kind of pinch it as it dries all the way around to make sure, and then I flip it over to make sure it's where I want it. Like I said, trial and error, guys. If it doesn't look right the first time, do it again. You can always manipulate your paper the way you want it to go. So I just keep playing with it until I've got it the way I like it. So that's one. We're going to flip it over and we're going to do the same thing with the other one with one thing in mind. You want to make sure that when you lay your flower over, you're not laying the petals directly over each other because it's going to make your flower look funny. When you look at real roses, the petals aren't laying exactly one over the other. So you want to make sure that when you put this on here, you off-center it from the other petals so that it lays in between 2 of your petals. Just put some glue there. And I just look over at the side so I can make sure that I'm laying it exactly where I want it. And of course, being that it's hot glue, you have some time to play, so you'll be okay. So we'll make sure we do the same thing. I'm going to pinch this around, and I'm not liking where it's ending up, so I'm going to turn it a little bit. And you just keep pinching it till the glue dries and it's stuck on there. And then if you're using hot glue, you gotta get rid of all your little glue strings. So now that it's all glued together, that's what your little flower looks like. And I just want you to know, I mean, they don't all come out looking exactly the same, so not every rose is identical. They're all going to look a little different, but I think because they do look a little different, that's what makes them so great and so special, so unique, because they're not exactly cookie cutter roses, because everybody can make, you know, you can buy cookie cutter roses anywhere, but these are just, they're special. You know that they're handmade, and they came out really great. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the tutorial, our little roses here. And just keep checking back. I'm going to have some great little Valentine's cards that we're going to put up for Valentine's Day. So I'm hoping to get that tutorial done soon so we can get that posted as well. I'm really glad that you guys have joined in and checked out our blog. Just keep checking back. We've got some great contests going on. Free Clippy Friday is wonderful. So just keep checking us out, and we'd love to hear your comments. So leave a comment if you'd like. Thanks, guys. Bye.